नमस्कार, स्वागत छ यहाँहरुलाई युथ टिभी शो मेकिङ नेपाल प्राउड ग्लोबली को नयाँ एपिसोडमा। लागौं आजको कार्यक्रमतर्फ।
Today we have with us a very young accomplished personality from Washington State, Mr. Buri. He is the Deputy Mayor of Newcastle County near Seattle. He is also the Vice President and Managing Director of Discovery Institute, which is a national level public policy center. Mr. Buri, welcome to our show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be on your program.
Can you tell us how your work impacts your community?
I wear two hats in my professional career. I am the Executive Director, as you mentioned, Managing Director of Discovery Institute. That is my day job, so that's how I spend the majority of my time. And I oversee a staff, as you mentioned, a group of 75 staff members, fellows, and people around the United States. It is a political think tank. Think tanks in the United States play really an important role in public policy. Think tanks develop ideas and really serve two primary purposes. One is to build public support for political ideas and concepts, and so we generate ideas and things that we think about, and then we try and build public support for those, and through that support hopefully people will talk to their legislators, and ultimately our ideas will become law. The other thing that we do is serve as a resource for elected leaders. So elected leaders will come to us and ask how they should approach a particular issue in order to learn how to make the best arguments that they can make. At the national level, through Discovery Institute, our work affects the national political landscape. We have been involved in science and cultural issues and technology policy and transportation issues, and really convening experts from around the country and bringing the best minds together to develop policies that can be implemented in Seattle, in Washington, D.C., and beyond. And so the impact to your average American citizen is that ultimately, if we're successful, our ideas will become law. At the local level, as Deputy Mayor, Newcastle is a city of about 10,000 people, so it's a smaller city, a suburb of Seattle. But we try and promote policies that create a place where people want to live, with parks and security and places that are clean, and we've done that very successfully. And Newcastle is a beautiful community, and that's how my work as Deputy Mayor impacts the local population.
Stephen, earlier we talked about the concept of think tank. In South Asia, it's still a very new concept. How does that impact in making politics more effective in terms of development and moving ahead?
I think you have a great resource here in the young people. In Asian countries, and particularly Nepal, there's a real opportunity for good ideas to come forward, and that's what think tanks do. And we have contributors at our think tank from the very youngest people. We once had an intern who was a very bright kid that was 14 years old and contributed to our organization. And we have our president is 70 years old and is still contributing to public policy. So in Nepal, I think there's an opportunity for good ideas to come forward to be promoted through the assembly and other local governments. And I think that the young people that you have here and the young people that we've met hold a lot of great promise for the future of this country.
In that sense, do you suggest that political consultancy, consulting politicians, can be a serious career? I
think absolutely. In the United States, political think tanks have become very important because as the political leaders have become more focused on the day-to-day aspects of what they do, the laws that are placed before them, the laws that they're trying to develop, they have less time to kind of think forward about about what they should be doing next. And think tanks contribute to the future of the United States, whether it be Seattle, Newcastle, or the entire country. And I think that in Nepal there is a similar promise for political consultants and think tanks and NGOs to contribute to the political process without being an elected leader.
You've also co-founded Stewardship Partners, which is an environmental-based organization.
Yes.
Can you tell us something about that?
Sure. In 1998, I had worked on a political campaign, and the person that I was working for unfortunately lost his election, but he and I decided to take the name ID that he had built, the fact that people knew who he was, and to develop it into a new organization. And our focus was on environmental issues. In Washington State and Seattle, environmental issues are very important. But we saw an area that was underserved, and that is that in the United States, government tends to develop environmental policies to protect the environment and impose those rules and restrictions on the population and on companies. And there was not an effort to involve and reward individual property owners. And so at Stewardship Partners, what we do is work with private landowners who want to do good things for the environment. They want to clean up a stream, or they want to protect their property. And we try and get government to reward those efforts, because too often in the United States we punish people for doing bad things. And we wanted to reward private landowners who made good choices and did good things for the environment.
Stephen, you also have a great family, two kids.
Yes, I do.
And you
I
live
miss
in
them.
miss them right now. And you live in a county. How important it is that a society is built upon moral values and children are raised with that?
Well, I think it's very important. I am in a traditional family, and that means I have a wife and two kids. There are lots of different family units, but you know, in the United States and other places there are divorces and there are lots of single parents. I think it's very important for the kids in particular to grow up with the influence of a mom and dad and to have day-to-day involvement and investment in the kids. With my daughter is in ballet and piano, and my son loves soccer and sports, and so encouraging their involvement in those kinds of activities, I think, are important, and creating a well-rounded child. And so that's what my wife and I are trying to do.
Let's talk to the young people of Nepal.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
What kind of obstacles you faced while you had started your political career, first as a senior assistant to U.S. Senator Slade Gorton?
There were a number of obstacles. First of all, those jobs are somewhat difficult to get. When I worked for Senator Gorton, there are a lot of people who want to work for a United States Senator because it's great experience, and so that was an obstacle. I am from eastern Washington, which is, I'm from a town of 2,800 people, so I had to move to the big city. I mean, moving was an obstacle, and so those are some of the challenges that I faced. And yeah, those are the things that come to mind.
How important do you think is it to get a degree in political science to be a politician? I mean, there are many politicians who do not have a degree in political science, yet they are doing with it. So
that's a good question. Most people who are in politics probably do not have a political science degree. And quite honestly, political and science don't really go together that well. Politics is not a science. The sciences that you study have very definitive answers and formulas, and politics is not a formulaic process. It's relationships, it's developing ideas and concepts, and so political science is not necessary to be in politics. I like to joke that I'm one of about 3% probably of people that have a political science degree doing something in politics, so it's unusual.
In South Asia or in many developing countries, we see politicians with almost no education, or they were into school or colleges because of hooliganism. So is there a relation between that your leaders not being educated and the country being a third world country or developing country, or the leaders being educated and the country progressing and developing or being developed?
Well, it's an interesting question, because when I worked for Senator Gorton, Slade Gorton was known as one of the smartest, brightest people. He was an attorney. There are 100 members of the United States Senate, and Slade was probably the smartest one of all of them.